What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Exchange for another podcast covering all the news going on at Star Wars Celebration Europe right now. There's not been a lot compared to our first podcast. We had 3 movies, Ahsoka trailer, all this stuff going on, but nonetheless, a lot of juicy news to get through. We weren't really sure when or, to throw the podcast in, but we thought now would be a good time. This can sort of be our part 2 to all the celebration news. So if you haven't heard all our thoughts on the movies and stuff, you can go check that podcast out. This is for the news that got revealed in the later days, such as today, The Bad Batch, Season 3, third and final season. Tales of the Jedi, Season 2. We had an Ahsoka panel where Lars Mikkelsen got revealed to, or not revealed, but I suppose confirmed, also revealed to be playing live-action Thrawn. Star Wars Vision Season 2 just released a trailer and a few other little bits and pieces. So we've got a lot to get through. Really keen to talk about it. It's just a great time for Star Wars. And as always, I'm here to do it with my co-host, Mike. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm on 2 hours of sleep, right? But it's all good. That's why we do Star Wars, right? 2 hours of sleep. Got my little cup of coffee right here. Also manifesting for a certain place for the next.
Come on, bring it home. Let's go.
Bring it home. But yeah, no.
We got the next location revealed. Me and Mike have a few that we would love it to be, Chicago being one of them. But yeah, anyway, continue.
Yeah. No, it's been a fantastic weekend. It's been nice too. We got to experience the last year a celebration in person. We were there in Anaheim. But for me, it's nice to why I do want to be there so badly. It is nice to just sit back and just kind of cover the news from home and everything.
It's easier to digest for sure.
Exactly. And when you're at the panels and trying to do all things at once and then you have a crappy connection, it's tough for people like us that report on news and try to keep everybody up to date with the latest Star Wars news. So but we're still doing that here. We're doing this podcast, so I'm very keen to talk about all the things. I mean, when Ari was doing the rundown right now, we had to add in like last minute things because other news dropped. So I'm like, this is going.
It's
so I'm
exciting.
Very excited to sit here, talk about the news, and have everybody join us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And chances are low that you're seeing this in between the time of us doing our live stream. But if for some reason you're seeing this in the first 2 hours of it being out, we're going live in a bit to do a full celebration wrap up, watch the closing ceremony with you. If a location is announced that me and Mike get excited about, which there's a few, you might see some silly shenanigans going on. So get involved with that. Or if you're seeing this later, check out the replay and you can see us either get really disappointed or really happy. So go check that out. But yeah, I reckon let's dive into this news. Let's start with the Bad Batch. Mike, me and you just sat through that whole panel. It was about 55 minutes of talking about season 2, which is cool. We like that. And then finally we got to the juicy stuff and the stream cut out. Standard Star Wars celebration behavior these days. But we got a bit of info, and of course the people in the room have been on Twitter and all the socials letting us know what happened. So what is the news? The Bad Batch is back for its final and third season. So yeah, it's confirmed. It's ending. A lot of people were talking about this, but thank God they get another season because there was a lot going around about potentially Lucasfilm Animation might not get the budget for a show like Bad Batch, but we're going to get to tell the end of this story the way the creatives have wanted to, which is great. On top of that, there was some footage shown, of course, not shown to the public because don't ask me why. Lucasfilm doesn't like to market its products anymore. But it showed Fennec Shand is coming back. It showed Captain Rex. It showed Emperor Palpatine. And returning to Star Wars after we saw him in Rebels, it's the guy sitting right here, Commander Wolf. Dave Filoni's favorite. He's back, which is great news. So a lot to digest, a lot to talk about. Mike, where are your feelings at off the bat from this news?
It's honestly an expected one. I said this before, but on one of our Bad Batch watches or covers, I did talk about how Bad Batch season 1 was much akin to A New Hope, setting up the story, and then obviously season 2 was The Empire Strikes Back for real. It was just, I mean, look at that finale, that was insane. And then I think this is going to be our Return of the Jedi moment. But I was like, man, it would be so cool. I actually thought Rebels would do this approach where it's only 3 seasons. 3 seasons is nice. Like, not many people. I mean, look, season 2 had its ups and downs, but at the end, they pulled their stuff together and they made that season completely worth it. And there's things like Avatar: The Last Airbender that go on for 3 seasons, and it's like it's perfectly fit and perfect amount of stories in there and juice that you have, to have an entire series and everything. And I think this particular here with Bad Batch, I'm glad it isn't a 5 season series, a 4 season series like Rebels. It's its own unique 3 season thing. It's like, okay, great, and I like that they're going to be able to finish and wrap up the story. Yeah, for me, it's expected. Am I going to be sad without, Bad Batch? Sure, but I'm sure something else will come along the way, for us to, more Star Wars animation. But yeah, I think this is not shocking in the least. I did expect a season 3 announcement, and it's just everything I expected, quite honestly. Very curious of all the things that happened in the that people were reporting and seeing the trailer. I want to see that stuff because you and I, when we were at the Anaheim panel, it was exclusive feature after exclusive feature, and it was like so much being thrown at you. Gunji, Palpatine, the other, some of the Commando clones. I'm like, what is going on? So there's a lot of stuff there for us to. It was too flashy for us, to be honest. To be like, I think I saw Commander Cody in there. Like I saw, it was just insane. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could just
Yeah.
imagine how sitting in those seats was for those people and witnessing all that stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. Like it's coming out in 2024, so we don't have to wait that long.
Mm.
Hopefully, I mean
Yeah.
they could say it's coming out spring, but then push it back like they did for season 2. But take your time with it, since this is the last installment. If they need to push it back to make it perfect, I'm okay. I want more episodes like the one with Mayday and the one and Pabu as well. Pabu was such a beautiful episode. But yeah, those are my thoughts. How about you, Ari? I know we got to watch that panel together and everything, but what are your we didn't really get to talk about this, so what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as you. I really like 3 seasons as a number. I think it's tight. It sort of fits like the trilogy kind of cliche, I suppose, of
Right.
Star Wars because we love our trilogies in Star Wars. And yeah, like you mentioned, Avatar: The Last Bender is a nice, tightly compact 3 seasons, and I like that Bad Batch is going with that approach. And it fits your analogy of season 1 is A New Hope, season 2 is Empire Strikes Back, and then season 3 is Return of the Clones, Return of the Jedi, whatever you want to make it out to be. So yeah, I really like that. The release date, I will say, feels very dodgy to me. 2024, I think, is a bit ambitious. I'm not gonna lie. So don't be surprised if it gets pushed back to 2025. There's murmurings around how season 2 was potentially quite rushed out. So and if it does come out 2024, I would expect it to be at the back end of the year. So don't
Right.
expect Bad Batch for a while, but I hope they take their time with it anyway. If it takes till 2026, I mean, obviously that's a ridiculously long wait, but I'll take it. It's the last season of the show. Just get it right. So I'd say that. And also, this is a celebration thing in general, and I don't mean to just constantly complain about it, but it is just so ridiculous to me that I'm reading on StarWars.com now. They've just put out about 2 paragraphs describing the footage in the room. So Lucasfilm has officially just
Oh.
put out saying this is what happened in the footage, but they just won't show it to us. For
Come
what? No,
on.
no one's reading this except for people like us who are diehards and just absolute nuffies when it comes to Star Wars. But this is just ridiculous. Seriously, put the footage out there. I don't need to read. An in-room teaser trailer was shown at the end of the panel, giving fans a sneak peek. It began with the Emperor. Well, it's just like, what? Why are we
What?
doing this?
Yeah.
It's
Why are we getting trailer descriptions? Look, I'll just say this. I'll say
yeah,
this. I understand if they have a marketing ploy and it's like we really don't want people to talk about Bad Batch all that much. So we're just gonna show all the people that made it out here. We're gonna show them an exclusive look. We're gonna do that. We're not ready to market the series or whatever, and that's okay. Like a whole bunch. I mean, if you go to Comic-Con, that happens all the time. You don't people outside those walls don't get to see anything, and that's okay. Like I think people that go should be rewarded and everything. However, there's things like this where it's like a trailer description not coming from Collider or Variety or the Hollywood Reporter. This is coming from Lucas from StarWars.com. You're telling me that's just absurd. That is ludicrous, ridiculous. Like that is just goofy. Like it's like at that point, just release the damn thing. Because I get it. If they're not ready
Yeah,
to market Bad Batch season
genuinely
3, I
laughable.
understand. That is more than a year away. I don't need to see about the season just ended.
Yeah,
Like let's talk about the season
yeah,
that just happened. We don't gotta be
yeah.
talking about season 3. That is, but that's crazy to me of that they won't release it, but then they're over here talking about what happened in the trailer. Like, come on. Like you know, as a Star Wars fan, you know, one of the things in the fandom is watching the new trailers and experiencing that for the first time and people filming their reactions and whatever. And that's just funny to me. Like, let's film a reaction right now. You film my reaction to you reading that and just being
Yeah.
like, oh wait, who is in there? What? Oh my
Exactly.
god.
Yeah,
Like, do they
yeah.
expect you know, that's pretty funny. That's
It's genuinely
ludicrous.
laughable. Yeah, and you are right. People that go to Celebration should be rewarded, absolutely. But there's a line. Like, you brought up a great example the other day where you were in the room during the Mandalorian panel where they were
Right.
showing the first look of the series. And guess what? They stream that whole panel, but for 2 minutes they block out the footage they don't want to show, and that's fine
Right.
because that was really early
It was
footage. And
raw.
yeah,
Exactly.
and that made
Exactly.
sense. And this would have made sense if they didn't put this description out because it's just yeah,
Right.
it's ridiculous. Anyway, moving on from that though, Fennec Shand confirmed in, which is cool. I'm interested to see where that goes. Her being in it actually spoiled that season 3 was coming out because Ming Na Wen let that slip by accident. Which is cool. Whatever. We love Ming Na, but
She's scared in the
um,
marketing for the
yeah,
season
she
already.
sure is. But yeah, there are a few question marks for me on future of Star Wars animation and future of the clones story. I'm the StarWars.com article actually something it does say use in a useful way is that
Yes.
where is it? I can't find the here it is. It says that Lucasfilm finishes telling this part of the story.
Yep.
I don't know what that is in reference to. I don't know if that's talking about the clones, about the Clone Wars era. So that's interesting to see because are we going to get like a Rex series after this? What's going on? Or is Wolf being in this series sort of a confirmation that this is when we're going to start to really bring in a lot of familiar characters, as well as, obviously going to save Omega and Crosshair. So I'm curious with that and just the general future of Star Wars animation. We're about to talk about Tales of the Jedi, which has just been renewed. But yeah, I'm very interested to see where are we going after Bad Batch because, while let's just focus on the Bad Batch while it's here and enjoy it. After that, I'm really curious where we're going because I would be seriously disappointed if we didn't have a constant like a season of Star Wars animation a year or something like that because we've gotten
Yeah.
so used to that and we've been so lucky in that sense. So I hope that train keeps on rolling. But yeah, anything else to say about the Bad Batch before we move on?
Yeah, great point about I was gonna bring that up about that this part, this chapter, whatever the phrase was, wording being over. And it's like I'm very curious is are they setting the stage for the Clone Rebellion and then we're gonna see it in another series or something?
Yeah,
So maybe maybe it seems like to me that they this is a bold prediction, but it seems to me because they're juggling a lot of pieces here. It seems to me that they're not going to fulfill the Rex and Echo storyline, at least not to its full potential. Like I'm
yeah,
saying, like the Clone Rebellion, where we
mm,
might see that
yeah,
just it's setting the stage for that in another series where it's literally the focus is Rex. Like when look, and actually, I'm probably gonna watch this again today. I've watched the Seizure Mandalore arc in the past week, like four or three, actually three times. There'll be four times today because I will watch it again. Never really like watching it because it's kind of painful, but I'm just like, this is beautiful animation, and I just got to hang out with the Clone Wars cast for a weekend, and I'm like, this is Clone Wars at its best. Like it's just insanely good. Like I think it's the best anything done in Star Wars animation. Like it's that arc. But I was always when it ended, I was always like, I mean, Ahsoka and Rex, where do they go? And obviously, we got some teases in Bad Batch where obviously we know what Rex is doing, but what is Ahsoka doing? We just get like indirect mention. So is that next part of the story going to be an Ahsoka and Rex series? I always wanted that. The way Ahsoka and Sabine were going to get, or I wanted them to get a series about the continuation of Rebels. I would love to see a Rex and Ahsoka series. Totally. I would totally love to see that. I think they deserve it. You know, I'm one of those people that I'm like, man, Ahsoka is popping up and everywhere. But at the same time, I really miss the Ashley Eckstein Ahsoka. So this would fulfill
Oh yeah.
that void. So I would totally love to see that happen. But yeah, they have a lot of pieces to juggle in season 3 where I'm like, yeah, you guys could totally do another show, because when Rebels ended, I was so sad because we had no Star Wars animation
Yeah.
for a minute until
Yeah.
Clone Wars came back and then kicked off
Mm.
Bad Batch. But I'm
I
like, there's
forgot
so
about that
much.
era. Yeah.
Yeah, it was dark. It was pretty dark. It
Yeah.
was like a year without animation. But
Yeah.
I really
That I
hope,
think we were very distracted by Rise of Skywalker, Solo,
yeah,
Fallen Order,
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, we were well fed, but it was just like that, Star Wars anime. I was telling Matt Lanter this, like, the reason I got stuck onto Star Wars was because of Clone Wars, and that for me, I just love my Star Wars animation. Like, I just,
Mm.
even Bad Batch, I'm like, you know what,
Right there
not
with you.
vibing with it this season, but it still fulfills
Yeah.
that hit for me. So,
I think,
anyways,
yeah, safe
yeah,
to say, I think it's both our like favorite flavor of Star Wars. We love all the
exactly.
flavors, but it's just our favorite
It's our
flavor.
favorite. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, looking forward to what comes next. This, the stage is set for the finale of Bad Batch, but I really hope that we get to see, maybe because what happened to the Martez sisters? They were teased in season 1 to have like a
Yeah.
bigger involvement.
And
Like,
again
what
in
are
season 2 because of
it,
the mid season episodes.
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's like,
Yeah.
what's going on out there? What is Ahsoka doing? I really want to
Mm.
know Ahsoka's story during this timeline, right before she goes and does her own thing, and she's like, hidden away on a planet. But
Yeah.
I want to know what's up.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I agree with all your thoughts, and let's see where Star Wars animation goes. Hopefully, it continues in a strong way. Speaking of Star Wars animation, from one animated project onto the next, Tales of the Jedi Season 2. Now, for long-time listeners of the show, they may know this is a contentious subject on the podcast. However, I think the Season 2 announcement is exciting for both of us, but I won't speak for Mike. So, Mike, how are you feeling now that Season 2 has been announced by Dave Filoni?
No, I'm excited, and it was actually like I got like a different light of Tales of the Jedi, because it just felt like it was just dropped for content purposes on Disney Plus, and I didn't like it. It felt like kind of manufactured, to say.
Mm,
But hearing Dave Filoni talk about it at the Clone Wars reunion panel, because that's where they announced it, which I already fell asleep right before, so I didn't get to watch the Clone Wars reunion panel
yeah.
thing.
I had been out and I just got back and I fell asleep and then I got up and I was like, oh, Clone Wars, great. Oh, I'm going to fall back asleep. I'll just watch it in the morning. I'm sure nothing big will happen. And I wake up and like 2 minutes after I fell asleep, it felt like had a message from Mike, like, oh, Tales of the Jedi Season 2, which I was happy about, but I was like, oh God, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. No one wants to hear my sob story.
Yeah, you had just missed it. um, yeah, no, I got to attend the in-person one at Chicago C2E2, and it was just like it was like kind of like the same vibes and stuff. So, but it was nice to see D. Bradley Baker there present and everything, and more of the Clone Wars cast, and crew. But they announced it of Tales of the Jedi, and Dave Filoni said like, oh, like I was in between like traveling for Mandalorian during season 1 or season 2. I forgot what he said there, but I was in the middle of traveling, and I was just writing stories that I wanted to see told and whatnot, and what I had ideas for. And so those were the Dooku and Ahsoka stories. And I was just like, oh man, that's great. Like, I'm glad that it came from a place of Dave Filoni wanting to tell more Clone Wars, stories and stuff. But I've had some gripes about the Tales of the Jedi. I need to do a rewatch, because I rewatched Clone Wars not too long ago, and I did rewatch Tales, but I need to do like another sit through, because I love the artistic flavors in there and stuff for sure. I guess I'm just not a fan of some of the stories told there. Because I do love me my Dooku Jedi Lost, and it felt like a lot of what was set up there and done with Dooku's character was kind of done away with. And I'm like, man, Kevin Scott wrote a beautiful Dooku tale, and it just feels like it was just swept to the side. But season 2, I mean, I really hope that they get out of the prequel era, and they do different stories. Like, I would love to see Kanan Jarrus. if they did the Rebels
Oh yeah,
characters, man, I would
I
so
know,
love it
I
was
know.
Rebels
Oh
animation.
god,
I would love it was
yeah,
Rebels animation, and just or I would just love because to me the Rebels characters, like it's seeing them in that Rebels animation, I would just die for. I want them to go back to the animation for I don't think the animation is all that great, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful in many ways. It's still good. Like it's still good animation, and I would love to see the animation explored once again. So maybe they could do like a different, I mean, it would seem weird, kind of offhand, like there's different animation in the season one, but of Tales of the Jedi. But still, I would still kill to see like a story about Ezra, Kanan, stuff like that. But I'm excited about this. It was when Dave Filoni started talking about Tales, I was like, oh man, we're about to get season two announcement. And he said it's officially in the works right now. Should be coming out sooner rather than later, but no official release date. But yeah, I'm very keen on seeing, hopefully no more Ahsoka stories. No more Ahsoka stories. We don't got to be seeing everything about her damn
yeah,
life, even though I
yeah.
love it. I'm just like, let's move on. There's other stories to tell, different characters. I love that what they did with Dooku, but I'm like, I want to see different characters. Like Ari made a post and he included Quinlan Voss on there. I was like, yeah, give me some Quinlan
Mm,
Voss. So, what are your thoughts? Who you want to see? What's your
yeah.
reaction to all this?
So yeah, I mean I feel the opposite about season one to Mike. I was absolutely in love with it. Still am. Think it's
A
some
little
of the
too
best Star
much.
Wars we've got in recent years. Um, I yeah, like Ahsoka is a bit overdone these days. However, I loved pretty much all the stories. The final chapter of Tales was probably the weakest, and you never want to end on your weakest episode. But the five outside of that, I think, are just absolutely beautiful pieces of television, beautiful pieces of media. I really, really, really love this series. So season two getting announced is great because I honestly didn't think it would happen. I thought I couldn't see how season one could have been that big of a success for them. The way they just dropped them all and then everyone forgot about them after a week. I thought,
Right.
geez, that was handled really poorly. I didn't think it was. They didn't set it up for success when I think critically the show was pretty successful. It was like pretty critically acclaimed, I would say. So yeah, didn't think it was going to happen. So really, really pleasantly surprised, and I just love the intention behind the show in terms of it's nothing more than at least season one was just Dave Filoni thought there's these stories I'd really like to tell, and I have a platform too, so I'm going to. And then they've sort of continued that on. But okay, how about you? I know you're a good writer. You know, you come on here, and do you have a story to tell? I think that's sort of the vibe of the show, which I really like. And then obviously focusing on the Jedi is great because you know the Jedi for me, that's like really my styles is talking about the Jedi. So that's why I love Rebels so much because I feel like it's so focused on Ezra and Kanan. Speaking of, yeah, I completely am with you. Those are the two that I want the most, 100%. And if they did that in Rebels animation, I would just about cry because that would just be beautiful. So
Yes.
yeah, those two are definitely my go tos if we're talking about who they could focus on. And then, yeah, as you mentioned in my post, I also put Quinlan Voss and I think Ventress. Either of those
Yeah.
two would be great. For those that don't know, Ventress was a Jedi at one point, so that you can cheat a little bit there in terms of putting her in the series. And then also, if we could get some sort of rendition of Dark Disciple, I mean, I'm not so sure about that after what they did with the Ahsoka novel in season one, but even still, just a Quinlan Voss post Order 66 story, something. We know he's alive thanks to Obi-Wan. So yeah, super hyped. So many possibilities. I've seen a lot of good ones thrown around. Plo Koon. There was one in my comment section that I read and thought was great. Kit Fisto was thrown up and about.
Ooh, I would love to see
Um,
the Jedi Master that Ahmed Best plays. That would be so
oh,
cool.
Keller and Beck. That would
Yeah,
be
that would be cool.
fantastic.
That would
That's
be
a
cool.
great call actually. Yeah, that would be cool. I can't find Ben Solo. That's the one. I would
Oh,
love a
right.
Ben Solo one
Yeah.
set in the sequels,
I
or do Ray or Finn post
Finn,
Rise of
hell yeah.
Skywalker. Yeah,
100%. 100%.
I think endless possibilities, and even if someone I haven't named is there, I'm sure the story will be told with good intentions, and that's why I think I love season one so much. So yeah, nothing else to say, but so excited by this
Bring
announcement.
bring it on. Just no
Mm.
Grogu, no Grogu
Oh
Tales of
yeah,
the Jedi
actually, I'm with you. No
episodes.
Grogu, no Ahsoka, please. As much as I love both of them, no
Yeah,
Grogu, no Ahsoka.
100.
And maybe no Obi-Wan or Anakin just because they've got the Clone
Yeah,
Wars
they've gotten their
and
fix. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so that's Tales of the Jedi. Anything else to add, or should we move on?
I'm free to move on.
All right, let's talk about the Ahsoka panel. So I know I said this is the second half of Celebration, but really, we actually haven't really covered much since day one. But that was just an explosive day in terms of news. So the Ahsoka panel, what happened? A few things. Biggest thing being Lars Mikkelsen, the voice actor of Thrawn, will officially play him in the series in live action, which was probably the worst ever kept secret. We've known this for a long, long time. It was finally made official though, which is great. And then I think something that's really huge for Clone Wars and Rebels fans is that Kevin Kiner is doing the score for this series, and a lot of people might really not care about that, and fair enough. But I think me and you are both absolutely, rolling out of our seats, if that's even an expression about it, because we love Kevin Kiner. I think he does some of the best Star Wars music out there. I think he does the best at taking what John Williams does, making it his own, but still really paying respect to the work that's come before. So
exactly,
so much respect for Kevin Kiner. So yeah, that was announced. Also, an extended trailer was shown, which was pretty damn cool. We didn't get to see it. Well, I mean, not gonna lie, I did see. Have you seen it?
Of
the extended Ahsoka trailer?
I don't. Oh yeah, I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah. So there was one. It wasn't officially released, unfortunately. Don't get me started about that. But yeah, Ahsoka is going to consist of 8 episodes. The names of the red wielding lightsaber characters are Baylan Skoll, who's played by the same guy who does
Gar Saxon.
Gar Saxon, yep. And the female is called Shin Hati. Dave Filoni talked about how he worked closely with Timothy Zahn, the creator of Thrawn, of course. Sabine is confirmed to be using Ezra's lightsaber in this series, which we saw in that extended footage. Also, I don't think we mentioned this, but in the trailer, the official trailer, you can actually see Kaz's dad from Star Wars Resistance. I don't know if we talked about that, but I thought that was neat. And yeah, the directors, we've got Dave Filoni, of course, Steph Green, which I think did a really good Book of Boba episode, if I remember.
Yeah, I think episode 2 it was.
Yeah,
that's my favorite one from that season or series.
Yeah, definitely. Peter Ramsey, Jennifer Getzinger, Geta Padel, and butchered those, sorry, and Rick Famuyiwa, which is fantastic. And of course, confirmed, we already really knew this, but we saw a Purgle in that extended trailer. And David Tennant will voice a live action version of Hu Yang, of course, that we first were introduced to in the Clone Wars. So a lot to unpack. What sticks out at you after all that information I've just thrown at you?
I usually get very scared with all this information, and I'm like, where do I start? But I think the one that most sticks out to me is obviously it was Lars Mikkelsen and the Kevin Kiner thing, and Dave Filoni talking to Timothy Zahn, because at my first C2E2 a couple years ago, literally ran into Timothy Zahn in the most Thrawn way, but ran into him and had a nice conversation with him. I wish we recorded that. It was like one of the greatest conversations I've had with a creator. And he was just like, because I asked him, like, Thrawn is seemingly going to make his debut in live action very soon. And at the time we only had, Mando season, up to Mando season 2. Book of Boba Fett was on the precipice of debuting. But I was like, I'm like, what, it's like, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Are you involved? And he was like, no, not currently, not involved. But I can tell you that the only person that I would trust right now in bringing Thrawn to live action would be Dave Filoni. And I was like, awesome. And he told me I loved everything he did with them in Rebels and everything. So I fully trust in Filoni. I was like, okay, cool. I'm like, okay, great. Like, he has Filoni's back. Because, sometimes you hear about these comic, writers and authors of books that are like, oh, the movie or the adaptation just completely undoes everything that I did with the character. It's just not a faithful portrayal. And Timothy Zahn, despite some criticisms that Thrawn has gotten for the Rebel series, Timothy Zahn stands by it, and it's like, nope, Dave Filoni captured the character perfectly and all that. So very interested with how Thrawn will play out in the Ahsoka series. We can save that for later discussion. However, the Lars Mikkelsen it's there. They could have asked somebody else to do it, and because obviously not been really attentive to the original voice actors for these characters. But it's just nice to get that Lars in there, because now, and with Kevin Kiner in there, get that organ music, get get that Thrawn voice, and we're back in Rebels. We're just back in Rebels. Do you understand me? Do people understand how big this is?
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's
I'm very
Rebels
so
live action, man.
Rebels live action. Like, I'm just so pumped for this, and it made my little Rebels heart happy. So
Yeah,
with that being said, though, looking forward to all this stuff. I'm very curious about these two antagonists, and what they'll represent. Are they working with Thrawn? Uh, and yeah, there's a lot of news from here that I'm just like, there is so much to digest and discuss, and like, who is that Inquisitor looking guy? There's
yeah,
just so much,
yeah.
and we're gonna have weeks and upon weeks after Mandalorian to get all this, and I'm sure we'll get updated articles from like Variety during the summer and being like, oh, meet this character, meet this, and
Mm,
we'll just get
yeah,
to savor it and break it down. But how about you? What stuck out
yeah,
to you the most,
yeah.
and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think first of all, you mentioning how this is, a Rebels live action with Kevin Kiner, some original actors, plus, of course, all those characters coming back. It's a big risk, and it could fall flat. I'm not gonna lie,
Yep,
it could easily fall flat, but it's a risk worth taking. And the same way Timothy Zahn has trust in Filoni, I think Filoni's made some interesting choices in the last few years, but ultimately these characters are his, and he's the one I trust to take them forward. And where if the acting or the visuals don't stand up, I think I'm trusting that the story will.
right, right.
Because I think if anyone should be writing these characters, it's Filoni. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, Lars Mikkelsen, it's just perfect casting. I mean, he was so great in Rebels. That voice is just I don't know
Oh,
how to describe it other than just perfect, because it matches the character. I'm not a crazy Thrawn fanatic like like my brother, for example, but um
are you talking about me or Jasper?
about Jasper. I mean, you're a Thrawn fanatic as
Shout out
well,
Jasper. Yeah,
but yeah, a couple of Thrawn fanatics that I'm way too
yeah.
well around way too much. But no, yeah, that's just great to me. We got that first look, and it was like a really blurry picture taken on someone's phone at the panel, so he looks good. He's got the cheekbones for it and everything. I know there's a lot of talk around like the pupils and how people think it should just be all red, but first of all, I think that's kind of goofy. Me personally, I know that's the original look, but I think it's kind of goofy. Second of all, since this is not a book and it's all on screen, it's going to be very difficult to read someone who they can't look at you. You can't tell where they're looking. So I think this will just work better and will be easier to tell a story.
For sure.
Um, with that. So yeah, Lars, just perfect. I already harped on Kevin Kiner, but yeah, that's also
He's great.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
things are
him
just
and his
coming
sons.
in. Yeah, they're just all the correct puzzle pieces are being put on the table. Let's just hope they all fit together in a nice way.
If I may, I just want to say, because I didn't even get to harp on the Kevin Kiner stuff, but I
Oh, go
think you
for
did
it.
so perfectly. You did so perfectly. I
Yeah.
just want to add, when Bad Batch was just going through the motions, where I just did not give one single feeling about uh, uh, the episode, the Kevin Kiner music, and the Kevin, or the Kiner family music, because it's the sons too,
Mm,
was just fantastic, phenomenal. Like, I'm thinking about that Temple episode where what carried it was the music. And I'm not
yeah.
saying, oh, like, it's a great substitute for the story, but it's like, that's how good the music is. Like, I notice it. Even when the story and action are so good, you just notice the music because it's so good. And I love when music stands out. And the Rebels tracks, I mean, go back to the one I've cried during so many of those. The Ahsoka theme,
Mm,
the recent Clone Wars soundtrack for season 7, is
yeah.
specifically the
Yeah.
final arc. Oh my
Goodbye, Kanan,
god.
at the end of World Between
Good
Worlds.
goodbye. Oh my. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so many that I'm like,
Yeah.
why
The
hasn't
end of
he
Legacy.
Legacy? I mean,
Yeah.
Bury the Dead. Oh my
Oh man.
god.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about, oh, I'm not even gonna that music is very special to me. But
Yeah.
um let me I, I'm just like amazed that him and his family get to be up there and do live action Star Wars, because they did music for DC's Peacemaker, and they've done other live action work. That's where Kevin kind of comes from, and it's like, why did it take so long to get him here? I don't know, but it's just great to finally see
Yeah.
Kevin out there and score a live action Star Wars, and who better than the guy who made the Ahsoka theme in the first
I
place?
know.
So
One of the
it's
most beautiful pieces of Star Wars
oh
music.
man,
The end
so
of chapter 13 or whatever it is, where
oh
Ahsoka makes her debut, the end of that episode, that's what Ahsoka's gonna sound like. That is in the series, so get
exactly.
excited.
I'm so hyped. So yeah, shout out Kevin Kiner. What do you guys think of the? Do you guys care about the music? For me, Star Wars, the lightsabers
Mm,
and all that is great and everything, but
absolutely.
the music plays a fundamental factor because it is a space opera, and I
Mm.
think the music is a fundamental element of Star Wars. So
Oh,
I'm always
yeah,
very choosy and picky. If I don't hear anything, I really don't vibe with it. So Rebels and
yeah,
Clone Wars and Bad Batch have all just and Tales with the music
absolutely.
has just been elevated. The story has been elevated because of the music. So
Yeah, yeah, and I think Star Wars projects that have fallen flat have I don't want to call any out specifically, but there's been a few live action series that have really struggled with the music, which has probably taken away from the experience of watching them. So,
for sure.
but yeah, Kevin Kiner has just been pure and solid throughout everything he's worked on. So
Yep.
we just do not have enough praise for him here. Um, so something I want to touch on really quickly. First of all, the live action actor playing Hera, I did not know this, but she is married to Ewan McGregor. Did you know that?
Yep. They
I
just
had no
recently
clue.
married within the past 2 years.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
absolutely no idea, but that's cool. We love another Star Wars family, and we've got the Fishers and all that. So yeah, we love that. Um,
Yeah.
one last thing before we move on, the Inquisitor. You mentioned it before. There's a mysterious looking Inquisitor in these trailers, and who he resembles the eighth brother from Twilight of the Apprentice quite a bit. Real quick, what's your theory on that? What are your thoughts?
I think it could be an Inquisitor that we're seeing. I don't know how one has made it out this far, has survived the events of the original trilogy and then post
Mm,
Empire.
mm,
It could be, yeah. I mean, most probable cause it's an Inquisitor and they have like some cool storyline that this some random comic will explore. But I think it'll be a remnant Inquisitor. Some people are saying that theorizing that it's Bears Offee. That would be interesting. But I don't really think it'd be
yeah,
the eighth brother. I think it could be another just a random Inquisitor. Yeah, because it just or maybe it is. I mean, I really don't have a say. I'm just curious as to why there's even an Inquisitor during this timeline because
yeah,
in one of the comics, I'm not that Dave Filoni pays attention to canon anyway, or they flat out say all the Inquisitors up to this point are dead or whatnot, or they give some line, some verbiage that's like, yeah, the Inquisitor, the hierarchy of the Inquisitor, that era, it's over. They're done,
mm,
and it wouldn't make sense for Inquisitors unless this was a rogue Inquisitor. Wouldn't make sense story wise why Vader and Palpatine would still keep them around during this time because it's like
yeah,
they were just supposed to like take care of like the hundreds of Jedi that survived Order 66, and when there's like a couple left, why do they care? So it
yeah.
wouldn't make sense to keep them around. Very interested though. I don't have any specific theories at this time, so I'll take the fifth on that. But how about you? Any thoughts on? Do you think this is
Yeah,
the eighth brother? I mean, I really,
Ah,
who
I think
knows?
I think there's a point to be made that it is in terms of the fact that when Ahsoka sort of begins her spiritual journey with the world between worlds and all that, it's on the same planet that the eighth brother dies or presumably dies, and just those stories being connected makes me suspicious. I would say I don't think this specific character is Barriss, while I do think Barriss will appear in the series because Filoni has been saving her for something, and I'm
Yeah,
just thinking it's
for
got to be
sure.
this. But I think it's there's a really decent chance it could be the eighth brother, but I'm not certain at all. But very curious to see what that whole story is going to play out like
For
because
sure.
yeah, I'm not too sure. But let's talk quickly before we wrap up about Star Wars Visions Volume 2. The trailer just dropped less than an hour ago of us recording this. But yeah, it's what sticks out. I'm not a crazy Visions guy. Season 1 was cool, but it's not really my flavor of Star Wars. However, what I loved in this trailer was the diversity of animation. Season 1 was cool, but and the point of that season was to be like anime and Star Wars, right? So that's totally fine. But the styles, at least to me, a non-anime fanatic, it was very similar and got a bit bland toward the end. Again, that's just me. However, this trailer looks great in terms of it's so diverse with its animation. There's Wallace and Gromit looking animation, which I'm pretty sure it is actually that same studio. There's so close to sort of a video game Clone Warsy look, and then there is that anime look as well. And then all the stories look just super fun and engaging and all that sort of stuff. So I don't have anything to say besides it looks cool, man, and I'm just vibing with it. The trailer music was great. Season 1 with that trailer was awesome, and this was good too. So I'm vibing with it a lot. But I know you're probably bigger into Visions than I am. So what did you think?
I've only seen Visions once through, and since Ari said he doesn't like anime, you are canceled. But I
I
mean,
don't not like it. I've never gone into it.
you're not a fanatic. Yeah, we know.
Yeah, I'm not a fanatic.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I don't. It's just not my type of storytelling. I guess I don't really like that like fast cut pace that they have. But for me, Vision season 1 was really cool. Like I was like, feels like fresh. Like Star Wars felt very stale at the time because of all the. I mean, Bad Batch was fun and everything, but it just gotten stale for me with because I really love season 1, but Bad Batch with all the cameos and stuff. I'm like, man, it feels like we're in this like tight, small galaxy in like this little box sometimes, and Vision's just like exploded with flavor and vision, and no pun intended, and just different stories that it's like, yeah, we're not canon, but we don't care. Like the Ronin story was amazing, and it just felt fresh and new, and I absolutely love that. It was like on a hot summer day and a very very hot day, and it's like with you if you jumped in the pool and the water was like very warm and whatever, that's how it felt like watching Bad Batch sometimes. But when you jumped into the pool and it was like a refreshing cold, that's what felt like watching Visions for me. I was like, damn, that felt good. So I hope for season 2. I watched the trailer, as Ari said, it's dropped just right before we recorded. I watched the trailer, and they said that this wasn't going to be an anime focus, but different animation studios. And I'm like, yeah, like this looks cool. Like I've said throughout the Bad Batch episode recordings that sometimes the animation just feels bland and dry for me. Like I'm just like I'm bored with it, and that has to do with some of the cinematography. But I'm just like sometimes it just looks boring, and I'm just bored of this animation. Even though I was the one being like, man, everything should be in Clone Wars animation, because after watching season 7, it was just perfect.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Bad Batch made it boring for me, and I'm still like I still want to see the animation for sure. But I'm just like, man, it just made it somewhat boring. However, watching this is just like different animations and just different types of storytelling. When that like TIE fighter looking thing came out of the clouds, and it just looked like just I don't even know what vibe to, maybe like steampunk type. Is that a way to describe it? It looked great, and it just looked like different stories to tell. And I think Visions, the project that they're doing, is a great statement about Star Wars, that it's vast, it's never ending, and I'm just like, this feels like a fresh take on Star Wars, rather than, oh, we're gonna explore this time period after Order 66. It's like, yeah, we know. But Visions is such a like creative approach to Star Wars that I just love it. And as you mentioned, the Grumbit thing, I saw the animation. I'm like, give me that. I feel like a little kid, and I'm like, give me that. I would have loved something like this as a kid, for sure, 100%. I would have loved watching Star Wars, like the Grumbit or Shaun the Sheep type stuff. Oh man,
Shaun the Sheep!
Shaun
My
the
God, what a
Sheep.
throwback, man.
We
never even
talk
talked about Shaun the Sheep.
We
Yeah,
never
after the podcast, let's talk about Shaun the Sheep
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, but that wraps us up. That's our news roundup. A lot to go through, which was super exciting, man. Celebration's been fun. If you've just listened to this podcast, go check out the stream. We're either live now or the live stream will be up, and we're gonna kind of cry with everyone as this awesome weekend comes to an end. Very sad, but yeah, it's been an awesome time. Before we wrap up, Mike, what's been your highlight from Celebration?
Ray, for sure. I got to talk about it with my little cousin yesterday, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like that's so exciting." And it just, whether you like the sequels or not, it's so cool that we get to go back and we get to push on in the Star Wars timeline and go forward for once, instead of going back. And and finding some cramped space to tell a story, and we're going forward. We should be excited about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm with Ray as well. But just to add something else into the mix, I think a moment that just brings out why celebration is so important is Hayden Christensen coming onto the live stage on day 3. If you haven't seen that interview, go check it out. Very similar to the Ahmed Best treatment, where he just was so mistreated, so poorly treated by the fandom and by the media and everything. And then more than a decade later, it's a shame that it takes that long, but he finally gets his flowers, and he has been for the last few years. But it's just always nice to see. And he was getting a bit emotional, and that was just a beautiful moment, and that just epitomizes everything that is good about Star Wars Celebration. So shout out to all the fans that just make it a fun community to be a part of. And we hope to be doing that here on the podcast, even though we do get angry sometimes about different things. But Celebration is just beautiful, and hopefully go to the next one, because we'll be there. I'll tell you that now, that we will be there. It doesn't matter where it is. There's a few, as I said, we really hope there's a few little places that we hope it is. But yeah. Anyway, that wraps up the podcast. Thanks for listening, Mike. Where can people find you?
all_Star Wars, and make sure you follow the Star Wars or the SW Exchange on Instagram. That is our community page. Ari and I are always letting you know what's going on. Frequent posts, all that stuff. We're about to hit 450. Like, we just hit 400, now 450. We're growing
get
fast,
us to 500. Man. Let's go. Yeah,
500
as well. 1,000 subs. We're closing in. We've been trying to get there for a while. So if you haven't already, please subscribe. Also on all the audio platforms, hit us with a 5-star rating. Write a review if you enjoy the show. That goes just a long way to supporting us, and we really, really appreciate it.
Love you guys.
You can find me at Star Wars_Exchange. Once again, thanks for listening. May the Force be with you. Happy Star Wars Celebration. See you guys very soon. Bye.